The title of this podcast is Work Harder on Yourself Than Anything Else. This is certainly something that I have been committed to over the last 8.5 years. And with each passing day, I find myself becoming more and more committed to this. And I apply it to everything. Before, I see a lot of people, as did I, that would focus on all the things that put those things first that you want to work on, then working on yourself. In my case, it was working on my education. It was working on my career. It was working on the way that I needed my family to be, especially my brother. I needed him to be a certain way. So I had a lot of advice about how he should make changes to get his life together. It was how people in the workplace should be behaving, acting, questioning their level of professionalism or how they show up, when they show up. You name it, I was doing it. I was putting all my energy there. And I see people do it the same way. They're working on what their children should be doing, and how they should be doing it, what their spouse should be doing, their parents should be, like all these things you're working on, except there's something that's missing. And what I put forth is what's missing is to work on yourself first. Before I even think about, telling somebody else about what they should be doing with the workout or how they should be eating differently or all those things. Before I even think about that, I'm making sure that I've worked on myself, not so that I have a leg to stand on, like get your house in order before you start telling other people what to do. Not that, or that I have the credibility doing it, but so I can be more effective at the things that I care about most. If I want to do a good job at work, before I start complaining about all the problems at work, let me get me together first before I start doing that. And I found that to be incredibly effective. And the things that I see as problems at work, they don't seem as challenging as, life or death as I saw them before. They don't appear to me that way. Could they be improved? Yes. But my relationship with them, my ability to handle them is completely different because I worked on myself. When it comes to people thinking that their spouse should show up differently, be different, whether it's in their relationship, how they parent the children, how they show up in the world. For example, at a restaurant, if they're nice or rude to the server, how they are in case you're working together, in a shared profession. Before you start to even think about how they should be different, use those as opportunities to work on you. Again, the title of this podcast is Work Harder on Yourself Than You Do on Anything Else. That includes your job, your relationships, your family, your communities, you name it, the country. Get yourself together first before you start doing any of those things. And if you do, you'll be more effective. When we look back in history and we think about people that have really, we consider to be inspiring. Take, for example, Nelson Mandela, in prison for 27 years. The first half of that, he was not working on himself, himself. He was, and this is him saying this, he was really, really preoccupied with how he'd been wrong. And by all accounts, I think people can look at that objectively and say that he was wrong. He was falsely imprisoned. And it was done by a system that is not about the upliftment of humanity. And then the second half of his time there, he changed. He started working on himself. And by doing that, he became more effective without saying one word, without demanding that other people be different. He was able to inspire change within the hearts of the people that were holding him captive, both from the lawmakers to the people that enforced the law to the very jailers. Like there was a change of heart with many of them. And as a result, he was more effective because he worked on himself harder than he worked on something else, worked on anything else. And that's what I found. Most recently, I've had the opportunity to join a leadership group at Mayo Clinic. And before and I made sure that when I come through the door at Mayo Clinic with my badge, that Keith 1.0 did not get a badge, so he doesn't get to come in with me. So when I'm sitting at these leadership meetings, I'm reminding myself that my only seat at the table, first and foremost, that my seat at the table is using everything that happens during my time at that table with everything that's raised, with as a strategy is being laid out, as people are giving feedback to other people or even to me, that my primary job at that meeting is to work on myself. Use everything that occurs as an opportunity to work on me. And then if I have something to offer, I increase the likelihood of what I have to offer being useful, that it might be well received, all of which is out of my control, but I increase the likelihood of that being the outcome. But what's most important to me is I use all of life as an opportunity to work on me, to be more conscious, to be more loving, to be more caring. And when I do that, I find out that I was able to do so because I'm not the effect of my personal mind and my default settings, the judging, the needing things to be a certain way. And that is a pretty great way to move through life. You experience a whole lot more joy. You're full of life. You cultivated inner peace. And so I encourage you to work hard on yourself than anything else. Before you start thinking about what your son and daughter should be doing with their collegiate years or their high school years or in their marriages and relationships, work on yourself first and work on yourself harder than you work on them. And here's how you know if you do, that if you continue to judge the choices that they're making, if you're doing that, go back to work on yourself first and then come back and look at those objectively. And how do you know if you're judging them or not, or whether or not you can let them go?